So guys, it's about 7 a.m. and we're taking a look at Pradoville 2. This is the entrance to Pradoville 2. Remember we introduced Pradoville 1, we said it was a housing development that was built back in the 90s, I believe, and fully developed in the early 2000s, and it was built basically for friends and family of the government. They acquired the land, developed it with government money, and then sold it at very reasonable prices to friends and family of the government. So what we're going to do now, morning, is just introduce you to what for a long time has been invisible to the rest of Guyana. This is Pradoville 2. In the past, it's only been kind of a name that people assigned a whole lot of it's right underneath the flight path from Ogle, so I can imagine it'd be pretty noisy living in this neck of the woods. But the idea was that this was going to be a modern housing development that the government at that time would build for, or at least would develop for, their top brass. And so in 2023, you can imagine it actually does look like a 1990s housing development. So there are these tracts of land that were sold. There were actually lots that seem to be much larger than the typical lot. For example, over this bridge is another older neighborhood. You can see, well, this is what houses looked like at the time this development was made. And so this is kind of, oh, they didn't finish this street, so we're gonna walk on the reserve. Yeah, this is what the new developments looked like compared to the older housing developments beyond this fence. And what I want to do is to explore a neighborhood that was, let's say, premeditated, deliberately constructed to be a kind of exclusive, an exclusive area for the top brass in society. And morning. And in fact turned into this. Now, I'm not saying that everybody in this or these neighborhoods, friendly dog, not everybody in these neighborhoods are in fact directly related to government, but the intention was clear in the beginning. And these houses were built in the 1990s and represented at that time what Guyanese top brass imagined to be state-of-the-art houses. Now, I don't know that the architecture is different from that copied from other places in North America, Canada, and southern United States. But another friendly dog, 2 dogs actually. But such as it is, this is what they built in terms of architecture. And like I said, not everybody here is connected to the government, but that was the intention in the beginning. And to be able to buy land on this property, to buy property in this new development back in the 1990s, you need to have some government connections. You couldn't just be somebody with a need for housing or land, right? So this is what they built, Pradoville 2. And so right now I think a fairly large percentage of the people who still live here now are connected to the ruling government, but I suppose there are a number of people who were able to, through friends and connections, able to acquire property in this neck of the woods. So not everybody, I suppose, is connected to the government. But just to show you what, in fact, an intentional housing development in 1990s looks like, and what it now looks like in 2023. As you can see, a lot of the homes are conspicuous in terms of size. They're larger than the typical Guyanese home, at least in the 1990s or when they were built. And the style, of course, is different too. But as you can see, you know, maybe 4,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet on a land. The footprint, of course, of the house is more dogs. These little dogs seem to be quite popular in this neck of the woods. There are 2 more. Yeah, so the land tends to be much larger than what you typically got in older housing developments, and therefore the size of the house on the land tended to be, there you go, noisy little buggers, tended to be, there you go, say hello. So that over there is good for Wacton, I believe. That's good for Wacton. It's an older neighborhood, right? But this is Pradoville 2. So guys, this is the field for the neighborhood. Let's see, 7 dogs, 7 little dogs. Okay, so this is a feel for what Pradoville 2 looks like, one of the upscale neighborhoods in Guyana. We've gone through now some of the other older suburbs like Bel Air Park and Bel Air, and more recently in the last video or so, Sobrianville, and those were kind of the
distance 5 miles, duration 1 hour 5 minutes 34 seconds, pace 17 minutes 32 seconds per mile, 736 kilocalories burned.
That's Ogle. That's the airport road in Ogle. Yes guys, I'm still on my morning run as usual, and I usually take a detour to make these videos, so typically run about 10 miles in the morning. So this guys is Pradoville 2. So those of you who only imagined what it looks like, now you know firsthand what they built here. It's supposed to be the most recent suburb. I don't think they've built any more, as government that is, built any more of these kinds of suburbs. They have been giving out lots of land and people have built their own homes. So I'll show you some of those in Eccles all the way up to Diamond, and some of them are privately built housing developments where all the houses are exactly the same. You know, I actually mentioned in a previous video that in housing developments, say down in Macon, Georgia, or Marietta, which I've seen myself, a developer would usually offer a number of models, right? Maybe 6 or 7 different models, and build homes in a neighborhood that architecturally are unique, at least different from each other in some key aspects, either the number of garages or the orientation, the size, the number of living room, dining room, kitchens, the orientation of those and so on. But here in Guyana, what they do is they just build every house exactly the same off of the same mold, and the result is a neighborhood or housing development that looks rather boring. And so that's what the private developers have been doing recently, and which is different from this one, because this development seems to have been built with different houses, different styles of houses, and to some extent they've succeeded in creating somewhat unique residential neighborhood, because the homes are not identical, not like the new cheaper. Now I understand why a commercial developer will build every house identically. He's trying to save money, because if he uses one building plan, one set of building plans for all the houses, he doesn't have to spend a lot of money, doesn't have to pay architects, and that's probably behind it. It's just cheapness. This housing development was not built that way, and for that reason it's outstanding. It's for the time, for 1990s when it was built, it's actually quite impressive for that time. Of course, in 2023, it does look dated, and you know, the carports and the garages and so on are not necessarily oriented or designed the same way they would be built in 2023. I think it probably built higher ceilings, you know, probably 12-13 foot ceilings in a modern house, in a 2023 house. But in fact it was quite impressive. These houses, these homes were quite impressive when they were built in the 1990s. This one is actually new. It's a modern home. In fact, 2 of them, based on the fence, I can see they were probably built in the last year or so, because this is what the developers, the architects are building now in 2022. This style of fence with the horizontal bars. Somebody's still building here. This is a new renovation, I suppose. Seems to be under renovation. And that, of course, is good for Wacton. On the other side of the trench divide. So guys, that's it. That's the extent of Pradoville 2. This one I think is a modern home. Seems to have been recently constructed. The one at the corner here is being renovated. It seems as if they're kind of tearing apart an older home and building it new, or renovating it. This one is probably been completed in the last year or two, and so on. So, but the point is that they're not all identical, and that's what makes a housing development interesting. And even though the older homes look dated, the newer ones are quite up to date and impressive. So that's it, guys. Tell me what you think of Pradoville 2 here in Ogle and its origin story, how it has aged, what it looks like now, and what they're building around the country. We'll try to get into some of the gated communities they're building. I think one that's quite popularly gated community is Windsor, I think, Windsor Estates. I've never actually visited them, but we'll be able to compare them soon once I bring you a video of that. That housing development, you can compare Windsor Estates with a lot of the what I call cheaper commercial developments. They said this is Ogle. We're right under the flight path of Ogle Airport, so this would be quite a noisy place to live because of the constant flying of planes overhead. But that's what's up, guys. You want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. In the comments below, let me know what you think of Ogle, Pradoville 2 in Ogle, and what you expected. In other words, did it match your expectations, Ogle, Pradoville 2, and the origin story and all that. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening. Right now I'm going to take a look at the progress with the hospital and hotel in Ogle. So stay tuned for that in the next video. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in Georgetown, Guyana. Later.